Hello, friends. So today I want to talk about lessons on living with grief. And notice I said living with grief, not healing from grief. And just so that you know why I feel like I have enough to say on the subject, I'll share with you some of the major losses I've had in my own life. My father died when I was 10. My brother died when I was 27. And my best friend died when I was 31. And my mother died when I was 48. I'm in my mid 50s. I'm 56 years old right now. And yes, I know I look younger than I am, thanks to lots of great genetics. And hey, like they always say, black don't crack. Um, so, what does all of this have to do with astrology? If you're new, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. I'm Darice of Illuminated, and I like to talk about astrology and the transits as a way to help us heal and grow spiritually, and also just to navigate some of the turbulent times that we are living through, the historic times that we are living through. And I was thinking about all of this as I reflect upon the upcoming new moon. And I may be looking down at my notes from time to time. So we have a new moon on March 18th in Pisces. It's going to be exact at 9:23 p.m. Eastern time. And I was thinking a lot about it because it's right at the end of Pisces season. A lot of our previous new moons have been at the end of the season as we're about to go into a new season. This new moon is going to be happening right before the spring equinox on March 21st, which officially ushers in Aries. We're also coming to the close of the eclipse season. We had the eclipse February 17th in Aquarius and then March 3rd in Virgo. And so we're in that post eclipse period, the 2 weeks following it. So this is a good time to be reflecting on what you've learned, what you've been through over the last couple of weeks, or even the last 4 to 6 weeks. And also just noticing in the collective, there's a lot to grieve over. Grief over identity, grief of horrible things happening in the collective. And I wanted to talk to people about how, yes, grief can be heavy, but I also recognize that there isn't a lot of space in our culture to actually just have us have a conversation around grief itself. And one of the things I wanted to share with people is that I don't necessarily feel like we heal from grief or the way people think about that. And for a long time, I struggled with this. I thought that healing from grief, these losses that I've experienced, that I would eventually stop missing the person. And that has not been the case. It doesn't mean that I haven't been able to experience profound joy after moving through these losses. But what I feel would be helpful for people is if we began to think about grief as more of a rite of passage, something that you go through as you experience life, and that it's something that becomes a part of you. Recognizing that my relationships with these people who have died doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship ends. In my experience, it just changed how it was expressed. My loved ones, they often come to me in dreams. And so I feel like that's one way we continue to communicate. They definitely send me signs from time to time. And so if you're someone who's been through a loss recently, hopefully that will give you some comfort. But I wanted to talk about it in the context of this particular upcoming new moon, because I feel like this new moon in Pisces and just everything that we've been going through, we're also closing out Mercury retrograde in Pisces, which can definitely have people in their feelings. I feel like the last few weeks has really been bringing people's feelings closer to the surface. And that's on purpose. You know, we need to feel what we need to release. We need to feel the grief, the sadness, the rage just coming up in us so that we can actually alchemize it and move through it in order to empty out the space so that we can have a new beginning. And so when it comes to experiencing these different losses, maybe how we see ourselves, loss in relationships, or loss of actual loved ones. Some people, maybe they've lost a pet. I know a few people who've been going through that recently as well. There are so many different types of grief. And there just isn't enough conversation about it in our culture, in my opinion, so that people feel like it's just a part of life. So often, like the first few years I dealt with the loss of my father, there was this perception that, like, after a year or so, I would be over it, quote unquote. Or so often that's the conversation that we see in popular culture. Everyone talks about how the first year is so hard. And yes, it is. It can be tremendously challenging. All those first birthdays, the first anniversaries, all those things that you miss. But what would have made it easier for me is if I had known that grief would come in waves off and on throughout my life. Like, there are certain periods, rites of passages that I go through as an adult where I may miss my parents more than other times. But I also recognize that I can still communicate with them, that I can still have a relationship with them, that I can still talk to them the same exact way that I talk to my friends who are currently alive and incarnated right now. And that I can get signs and answers from them. It's just in a different way. And so maybe that's helpful to you as well. And so if you're feeling things come up around this new moon, things that are asking to be released, if there is something that needs to be grieved, I'm just encouraging you to give yourself permission to do that, and to be willing to feel it. Especially because, let me look at the exact aspects again that we have. We currently still have Mars in Pisces, and Mars in Pisces can definitely amplify our spiritual wounds. It can encourage us to really dive deeper in what needs to be healed spiritually. We also now have Venus in Pisces. So, it's more about reflecting on how we experience our values in a way that's in touch with our vision, our dreams, our desires. And so, if there's been loss around that as well, disillusionment around maybe a dream or a vision that might be coming up around this new moon, again, so that you can grieve the loss of that, so that you can create space for a new dream or a new vision or a new form of that vision. Um, the moon is also going to be conjunct Neptune and Saturn, which are both in Aries. So if you're beginning to feel, it could trigger where you're feeling like you're having a loss of initiation or being able to move forward. So that could be happening as well. And it's also going to be sextile in Uranus, the planet of disruption, surprises. So we may have more surprises as well in the collective around this new moon. Something new could begin in a way that's unsurprising, that is surprising to us, either personally or in the collective. Who knows how that will unfold. But really, as I was sitting with it, that was the message that just kept coming to me, that this is about helping us learn how to navigate and move through grief, how to allow the grief to become a part of us, that it's not something that you have to shove down. It's not something that you have to just push through to get to the other side of it, because that isn't always the most helpful approach, at least in my experience of grief. Um, but what I love about grieving is that it softens us in a way that very few experiences do. And as a result of that softening, that opening, um, there's more appreciation for the people that you do still have in your life. There's a deeper understanding of how precious it is, the relationships that we do currently have, and that the life that we do have, that we do want to live and move through. There's more gratitude about all the opportunities that still exist. That grief can remind us of that and help us to be more grateful for the life that we still have ourselves and the people that we do still have in our world, in our lives. And it can also sharpen and clarify, what are our two values? How do I want to live in this world? How do I want to move through life? What is important to me? What is the legacy that I want to create? Grieving the loss of someone can help you get clarity around all of those values, those ideas, those concepts. And so, if you are someone who's going through grief, definitely get support. I definitely I did get a lot of help with therapists, different modalities, as well as support groups as well. So, if you do need that, definitely find that. That's definitely another way to do the shadow work. And you don't have to do these things alone. And so I always encourage people to get support in that regard as well. I guess this is also a good time to remind people that I do have my one-to-one 30-minute witnessing you session as one form of support that I offer people. That's a smaller version of my 90-minute you illuminated session. So it's my opportunity to kind of look briefly at the astrological transits, what's going on in your world, but also just a way to meet you where you are and help you find what is really coming to the surface for you, either what's blocking you from being your true self or coming more into alignment with how you desire to be in this world. It's an opportunity to help you heal from things that you are currently recovering from as well, or attempting to alchemize. I also have my Skool community. That's just $9 a month or $50 a year. And so that's an opportunity as well to come together in community and be supported by others, and also to celebrate other people, to have yourself be celebrated and to celebrate others as well, because that is just as important as well. And just know that whatever you're grieving, there is a light on the other side of that tunnel. And it's not necessarily something that you have to ever feel like you have to release completely, but allow it to become a part of you. And like I said, after all the losses I've experienced, I still have relationships on the spiritual plane with the people I've lost in the physical. And that gives me tremendous comfort as well. And when there are times when I do miss them more profoundly than others, I let myself feel that. I express that. And when I need support from other people around that, I reach out. I get it. I have a community that helps me and supports me. So I also encourage you to do that as well. Find community if you have not done so already, both online and in real life as well. As we continue to go through these transformative times over the next few years, having support both online and in real life will become more and more important. Community is such a valuable um, asset at this time, a tool to have in your toolbox to help you move through whatever you need to move through and to help you continue to be the bright light that you are. And with that, I just want to also remind people to like the video, subscribe to the channel. That does help me get the message out. And also just continue to support yourself, be kind to yourself, show yourself tenderness. You're worth that. And with that, you always remember to honor the light within you.